Beloved one, something unusual has just happened. The fact that you are hearing these words at this precise moment is not random, and it is not something that should be dismissed lightly. There are moments in life when heaven quietly interrupts the ordinary flow of events because a hidden truth can no longer remain buried. This is one of those moments. For a long time, there has been something unfolding around your life that you could feel but could not fully explain. A subtle tension. A quiet discomfort. A strange sense that something behind the scenes did not align with the surface you were being shown. Many people tried to convince you that you were imagining things, that you were overthinking, that you were being too sensitive. But the deeper part of your spirit kept whispering that something about the situation was not right. That whisper was not fear. It was awareness awakening. There are certain truths that are not discovered through investigation, but through spiritual awakening. And recently, something inside you began to connect pieces that once seemed unrelated. Small behaviors. Strange reactions. Inconsistent words. Moments when people around you acted differently when they thought you were not paying attention. At first these things appeared insignificant, like random fragments scattered across your memory. But slowly, almost silently, a pattern began to emerge. What once looked like coincidence started to resemble intention. What once looked like misunderstanding started to reveal deeper motives. And this is exactly the moment many people never expected to arrive. They assumed you would continue trusting the surface. They believed you would never see the hidden design beneath their actions. But something shifted. Your awareness grew sharper, and suddenly the story they were carefully maintaining began to crack. Understand something important. What you are beginning to notice did not surprise heaven. Long before you sensed anything was wrong, the truth had already been witnessed. There is a realm beyond human conversations where motives are never hidden and intentions are never disguised. Nothing spoken in quiet rooms, nothing whispered behind closed doors, and nothing planned in secret escapes that sight. The ancient writings remind us in Ecclesiastes 12:14 that every hidden matter is brought into the light, whether good or evil. That truth does not operate on human timing. It moves according to divine timing. And for a long period, the silence around what was happening in your life was not absence. It was observation. Imagine a courtroom where every action is being recorded, where every word is documented even when the person speaking believes no one is listening. In that unseen court, nothing about your situation has ever been ignored. Every moment of manipulation, every subtle attempt to mislead you, every carefully crafted smile hiding a different intention has already been noticed. While you were trying to understand why certain situations felt heavy or confusing, heaven was already examining the entire pattern. The silence you experienced was not neglect. It was patience. Because exposure without the right timing can cause more confusion than clarity. There are seasons when truth must remain covered until every hidden piece has revealed itself fully. You may have wondered many times why the realization did not come earlier. Why certain people were allowed to stay close longer than they should have. Why the uncomfortable feeling in your spirit existed for months, maybe even years, before you clearly saw the truth forming in front of you. The answer is deeper than most people expect. Some revelations require maturity before they can be understood correctly. If you had discovered everything too early, your reaction might have been driven by pain rather than wisdom. But the season you are entering now is different. Your understanding has grown. Your perception has sharpened. And the moment you are living in is not about confusion anymore. It is about clarity. This is why something inside you recently began to feel undeniable. Conversations that once seemed harmless suddenly sounded different. Past situations started replaying in your memory with a new perspective. Even the way certain individuals react to your presence has begun to reveal more than their words ever did. And the truth is, this awareness is exactly what they never anticipated. They believed their actions were subtle enough to remain unnoticed. They trusted that their version of events would always be accepted without question. They thought the carefully constructed image they presented would remain intact forever. But the one thing they did not consider was the quiet work happening within you. Because while they were focused on maintaining appearances, something deeper was happening inside your spirit. Your discernment was being strengthened. Your attention was becoming sharper. And without anyone announcing it, you began to see through layers that once seemed invisible. This is not simply a moment of realization. It is the beginning of revelation. The difference is important. Realization shows you what happened. Revelation shows you why it happened. Right now, you are standing at the edge of that revelation. What you have already started to notice is only the surface of a much larger truth that is preparing to come into view. The strange behaviors, the uncomfortable intuition, the subtle inconsistencies you began observing were only the early signals. They were the first cracks in a structure that has been slowly weakening over time. And as those cracks widen, something that many people believed would remain hidden forever is beginning to move toward the light. But here is the part that may surprise you even more. What you have discovered so far is only the beginning of what is about to be revealed. Something deeper is about to come into focus, something that will explain why certain people reacted to your growth with unusual tension, why certain opportunities around you felt strangely obstructed, and why the atmosphere around your name shifted in ways you could not fully explain. Because the truth behind what you discovered is connected to something they tried much harder to hide. Beloved one, before you question your own perception, understand something very important. The discomfort you felt, the strange tension in your spirit, and the growing awareness that something around you was not authentic were not signs of weakness. They were signs of discernment awakening. Many people live their entire lives ignoring that inner signal. They silence it because it challenges the comfortable version of reality they want to believe. But you did not silence it. Even when you tried to explain it away, something inside you kept returning to the same quiet conclusion, that certain smiles carried hidden motives, and certain friendships carried an energy that did not feel genuine. That realization can be painful, because no one enjoys discovering that trust was misplaced. Yet what you felt was not confusion. It was the beginning of truth surfacing. There is a reason your spirit reacted the way it did. When someone carries intentions that are different from the image they present, that contradiction creates a subtle disturbance. Words may sound kind, but the atmosphere around them feels heavy. Actions may appear supportive, but something inside you senses resistance beneath the surface. That tension is not imaginary. It is the collision between appearance and reality. And when that collision happens repeatedly, the human spirit begins to notice. What you experienced was not paranoia. It was awareness slowly aligning with truth. Ancient wisdom reminds us of something that many people overlook. In Proverbs 26 verses 24 to 26, it is written that those who harbor hatred often disguise it with their lips, but their true intentions eventually reveal themselves. This does not mean every difficult relationship hides betrayal. But it does mean that deception rarely survives forever. A person may maintain appearances for a season, but eventually their behavior exposes what their words tried to conceal. And what you are witnessing now is part of that natural exposure process beginning to unfold. For a long time you may have interpreted the betrayal around you as loss. Loss of trust. Loss of loyalty. Loss of the relationships you believed were real. But the deeper perspective is something very different. Sometimes what looks like betrayal is actually separation that was necessary for your protection. There are people who can walk beside you while your life remains small and comfortable. But the moment your path begins to grow, the moment your influence expands, and the moment your potential becomes visible, their attitude shifts. Not because you changed into someone negative, but because your growth reveals insecurities they have been carrying quietly. This is where jealousy often begins. It does not always appear as open hostility. In fact, jealousy usually hides behind friendliness at first. It may appear as subtle discouragement when you pursue something meaningful. It may appear as jokes that quietly undermine your confidence. Sometimes it appears as exaggerated concern about decisions that could elevate your life. On the surface these reactions may seem harmless, but beneath them lies something deeper, the discomfort of someone witnessing a future they secretly wish belonged to them. The truth is, your progress became a mirror. And mirrors can be uncomfortable for those who are avoiding their own reflection. When people see someone stepping into purpose while they remain stuck in fear or resentment, that contrast creates tension inside them. Instead of confronting their own limitations, some individuals choose an easier response. They attempt to slow down the person who reminds them of what they have not pursued. Not through obvious attacks, but through quiet influence, subtle manipulation, and carefully disguised negativity. This is why certain situations in your life began to feel strangely restrictive. Opportunities may have been delayed. Encouragement may have been replaced with hesitation. Conversations that should have celebrated your progress suddenly carried an undertone of skepticism. These moments were confusing at the time because you assumed the people around you wanted the best for you. But what you are beginning to understand now is that not everyone who walks beside you celebrates your destiny. Yet here is the perspective that changes everything. What they intended as interference became insulation. What they attempted as limitation became protection. The same circumstances that seemed frustrating in the moment were quietly redirecting your path away from environments where your growth would have been constantly resisted. In ways you did not recognize at the time, those uncomfortable experiences were slowly separating you from influences that could not walk with you into your future. There is another piece of wisdom that speaks directly to this moment. Romans 8 verse 28 reminds us that all things can work together for good for those who are aligned with a higher calling. That statement does not mean every experience feels good while it is happening. Many seasons feel confusing, painful, or unfair in the moment. But when viewed from the perspective of time, those same seasons often reveal themselves as protection in disguise. Think about the timing of your realization. It did not arrive when you were emotionally fragile or dependent on those relationships. It arrived when you were strong enough to see clearly. Your understanding matured before the full truth reached you. That timing matters. Because awareness without strength can create bitterness, but awareness with strength creates wisdom. And the stage of life you are entering now is not about resentment toward the past. It is about clarity about the future. The jealousy that once operated quietly around you is losing its power, not because people suddenly changed, but because you are beginning to see the pattern. Once the pattern becomes visible, manipulation loses its influence. The moment you recognize what was happening, the dynamic shifts. And this shift is exactly what many individuals never expected to occur. They believed their behavior would remain invisible forever. They assumed you would never fully understand the environment they created around you. But the truth is emerging now. And as that truth becomes clearer, something else is starting to unfold behind the scenes, something that will reveal not only why certain people acted the way they did, but also what begins to happen when hidden motives can no longer stay hidden. Beloved one, the moment truth begins to surface, something remarkable happens behind the scenes. Deception is powerful only while it remains hidden. The moment light touches it, the entire structure begins to weaken. What many people fail to understand is that exposure rarely arrives through loud confrontation at first. Instead, it unfolds quietly. Small details begin slipping through the cracks. Stories stop aligning with previous explanations. Reactions become defensive where they once appeared calm. The very people who worked carefully to maintain an image suddenly start revealing pieces of the truth without even realizing it. This is the stage you are entering now. For a long time, the situation around you operated under controlled appearances. Certain individuals believed they had mastered the art of managing perception. They carefully shaped conversations, controlled narratives, and presented themselves in ways that protected their reputation while quietly working against you. But deception requires constant maintenance. It depends on every detail staying perfectly aligned. And once that alignment begins to break, the entire illusion becomes fragile. What you are witnessing now is not random behavior. It is the natural unraveling of a carefully constructed mask. People who once appeared confident around you may now show unusual discomfort. Conversations that used to flow smoothly suddenly become awkward. There may be moments when someone over-explains something that was never questioned. Or they may react defensively to a topic that should not have triggered any concern at all. These small shifts may seem insignificant on the surface, but they are signals of something deeper happening internally. Because when a person realizes that the truth they tried to bury might be discovered, their internal world begins to collapse long before anything is publicly revealed. The pressure they feel does not come from you confronting them. In fact, the most powerful exposure often happens when the person being wronged remains calm and observant. Silence has a way of amplifying guilt. When someone knows they acted dishonestly, every ordinary interaction starts to feel threatening. They begin wondering what you know. They analyze your words looking for hidden meaning. They watch your reactions trying to measure whether their secret is safe. And the more they attempt to control the situation, the more obvious their behavior becomes. This internal tension slowly erodes the stability they once relied on. Confidence turns into nervousness. Control turns into overreaction. And eventually, the very strategies they used to hide the truth begin revealing it. The mind was never designed to maintain deception forever. Carrying hidden motives requires constant effort, and that effort eventually drains the person maintaining it. What you are seeing now is the beginning of that exhaustion. But something even deeper is unfolding beyond human psychology. There are moments in life when protection arrives in ways that cannot be explained through ordinary circumstances. Situations shift unexpectedly. Conversations occur that bring hidden information into the open. Individuals who once supported deception suddenly distance themselves. Opportunities arise that separate you from environments where manipulation once operated. These moments may appear coincidental, but often they represent something far more intentional. The ancient psalmist once described a powerful truth in Psalm 34 verse 7, saying that divine messengers surround those who walk with integrity, creating a shield of protection around their lives. Protection does not always appear dramatic. It does not always arrive with visible signs or extraordinary events. Sometimes protection works quietly, guiding circumstances in ways that gradually expose what was hidden while preserving the one who was being targeted. This protective layer has been operating around you longer than you realized. While certain individuals were attempting to influence situations behind the scenes, forces beyond their understanding were quietly limiting how far their actions could go. Plans that seemed certain began failing unexpectedly. Opportunities they expected to control slipped out of their reach. conversations they hoped would damage your reputation never gained the traction they anticipated. From their perspective, these outcomes probably felt like bad luck. But what they were actually encountering was resistance they could not see. Because when someone walks with genuine intention and integrity, there are boundaries placed around their life that others cannot easily cross. This is why some of the attacks against you felt strangely ineffective. Yes, there may have been moments of frustration. There may have been delays or misunderstandings that created temporary discomfort. But the complete damage certain individuals intended never fully materialized. Something kept interrupting their momentum. Something kept redirecting situations just when they believed their influence would succeed. And now those same individuals are beginning to sense that the environment around them is shifting. The protection that once operated quietly is now allowing exposure to move forward. The same awareness awakening inside you is beginning to ripple outward into the environment around you. People who once ignored subtle inconsistencies may start noticing them. Conversations that once accepted a certain narrative may begin questioning it. Situations that were carefully controlled may suddenly move beyond their influence. This is the moment deception fears the most, not when it is accused, but when it can no longer maintain its disguise. And as that disguise weakens, the psychological pressure on those who created it grows stronger. The tension they carry becomes visible. Their reactions become unpredictable. The confidence they once displayed begins to crack under the weight of their own hidden actions. But what is unfolding now is only the early stage of a much larger shift. Because the exposure that has started quietly is preparing to move into a phase that will not remain quiet for long. Beloved one, there comes a moment in every story where the tension that has been building quietly reaches a turning point. Not a loud explosion, not a dramatic confrontation, but a shift so clear that everything begins to move in a different direction. You are approaching that moment now. The exposure that began with small cracks in the illusion is slowly forming a sequence. One piece reveals another. One inconsistency leads to another question. One moment of discomfort uncovers a deeper pattern. And before long, the structure that once protected deception can no longer hold its shape. This is how exposure usually unfolds. Rarely does it arrive all at once. Instead, it moves step by step. Someone notices something unusual. A conversation surfaces that was meant to stay private. An action that seemed harmless before suddenly carries new meaning when seen from the right perspective. People who once believed the story without hesitation begin looking closer. The same narrative that once seemed convincing starts feeling incomplete. And when that shift begins, the truth moves through the environment like light through a dark room, quietly at first, but impossible to stop once it starts. The individuals who thought everything was under control begin realizing something unsettling. The story they carefully protected is no longer stable. The confidence they once had begins fading because the environment around them is changing. What they expected to remain hidden is gradually being examined. And the most difficult part for them is that this shift is not something they can easily reverse. Once awareness begins spreading, it becomes very difficult to contain. But this moment is not only about exposure. It is also about instruction, especially for you. Because when truth begins surfacing after a long season of deception, there is a temptation to respond with anger, confrontation, or the desire to prove that you were right all along. Those reactions are natural. Anyone who has been misled or betrayed feels the impulse to defend themselves. Yet the path of wisdom in this moment looks different. The most powerful position you can take right now is not aggressive reaction, but calm clarity. Remain observant. Remain steady. Let truth speak for itself. When someone built their influence on manipulation, the collapse of that influence happens naturally once the truth becomes visible. You do not need to force the exposure. You do not need to argue your case repeatedly. In many situations, the more calmly you carry yourself, the more obvious the contrast becomes between integrity and deception. This contrast is powerful. Integrity moves quietly but consistently. It does not require constant explanation. It does not depend on carefully constructed stories. Integrity simply remains the same in private as it does in public. Deception, on the other hand, requires constant adjustment. It must rewrite details. It must manage perceptions. It must control conversations in order to survive. And when both of these forces exist in the same environment, time eventually reveals which one is real. Look back at the journey you have already walked. There were moments when you felt isolated. Moments when you questioned why certain situations were allowed to continue. Moments when it seemed like the truth was invisible while false narratives moved freely around you. Those seasons may have felt unfair, even exhausting. But surviving those seasons built something inside you that could not have been developed any other way. Your patience strengthened. Your discernment sharpened. Your ability to observe quietly rather than react impulsively became stronger. That growth is the reason you are able to stand calmly now while the environment begins shifting around you. You survived everything not because the situation was easy, but because something greater was protecting your direction. Every delay that once frustrated you was also preventing you from becoming permanently entangled in environments that could not support your future. Every uncomfortable realization was slowly guiding you toward clearer understanding. What once felt like obstacles were often quiet redirections leading you away from paths that would have drained your purpose. There is a deeper truth hidden inside this process. Sometimes people believe their destiny is threatened when they experience betrayal or opposition. But often the opposite is happening. What appears to be resistance is actually filtration. Individuals who cannot walk with you into your next season begin revealing themselves before that season arrives. Situations that would have eventually limited your growth start dissolving earlier than expected. In ways that are not immediately obvious, the path ahead is being cleared. This is what repositioning looks like. Repositioning does not always feel like promotion at first. Sometimes it begins with separation. Sometimes it begins with clarity about relationships that no longer align with your direction. But once that clarity appears, restoration begins to follow. The same life that once felt surrounded by tension begins attracting environments where honesty is valued. The same journey that once felt blocked begins opening doors that previously seemed unreachable. Your survival through the previous season was not accidental. There were moments when circumstances could have pushed you into discouragement or distraction. Yet something kept pulling your attention back toward growth. Something kept reminding you that your path was larger than the temporary noise surrounding you. That reminder was not imagination. It was direction. Because the purpose attached to your life required protection. Not everyone around you understood that purpose, and some individuals may have even tried to interfere with it. But interference can only reach so far when destiny is involved. There are boundaries placed around certain lives that cannot be permanently crossed. Delays may happen. Confusion may appear temporarily. Yet the deeper direction remains intact. And now you are beginning to see why everything unfolded the way it did. The survival, the awareness, the separation, and the exposure that is unfolding around you are all part of the same process. A process that has been quietly guiding you away from deception and towards something far more stable. But the most important moment of this journey is still ahead. Because as the truth continues moving forward, a decision will soon stand in front of you, a decision that will determine how the next chapter of your life begins. Beloved one, every journey that leads to revelation eventually arrives at a moment of decision. Not a decision about what others have done, but a decision about who you will become now that the truth is clear. The exposure unfolding around you is not only about revealing deception. It is also about positioning your heart for the next chapter that is opening in front of you. When truth surfaces after a long season of confusion, people usually stand at one of two paths. One path leads toward bitterness, replaying the past and carrying the weight of betrayal into every new relationship. The other path leads toward wisdom, where the lessons remain but the pain no longer controls the future. This is the moment where your spirit chooses which direction your life will follow. You have already seen enough to understand that what happened was not imaginary. The patterns became clear. The intentions revealed themselves. The quiet manipulation that once surrounded your environment no longer hides behind a mask. But now that you see it, the greater question becomes this: what will you carry forward from this moment? Because the future waiting for you cannot be built on resentment. It must be built on clarity and strength. There is a powerful truth written in Isaiah 54 verse 17, declaring that no weapon formed against you will ultimately succeed, and every voice raised against you will eventually be proven wrong. That promise does not say the weapons will never appear. It does not say betrayal will never occur. What it promises is something deeper, that the outcome will not belong to those who try to harm you. The final chapter does not belong to deception. It belongs to restoration. Look back at everything you have survived. You endured seasons when people misunderstood you. You endured moments when the truth about your situation seemed invisible while false impressions spread easily. You endured the quiet weight of realizing that some individuals you trusted were not who they appeared to be. Yet despite all of that, you are still standing here now with greater awareness, stronger discernment, and a clearer understanding of your own direction. That alone is evidence that the attacks against you never reached the destination they were designed to reach. Because the purpose placed on your life was always stronger than the resistance around it. And now comes the moment to seal this realization with intention. Not just with understanding, but with a declaration that aligns your heart with the path ahead. So take a moment right now. Slow your thoughts. Let the noise of past situations become quiet for just a moment. And allow this prayer to rise from your spirit. Heavenly Father, you see every detail of the journey I have walked. You saw the moments of confusion, the seasons of betrayal, and the hidden motives that surrounded my life when I could not fully understand them. Thank you for protecting me even when I did not realize protection was happening. Thank you for guiding my awareness so that truth could eventually reach me. Today I release the weight of what others intended for harm. I choose clarity over bitterness, wisdom over resentment, and peace over the past. Guard my path moving forward. Surround my life with people whose intentions are genuine and whose hearts value truth. Let every step ahead be aligned with the purpose you have prepared for my life. Amen. If these words resonate with your spirit, take a moment to acknowledge it. Many people quietly affirm this by simply typing "Amen" or "I receive this" in the comments. That small act may seem simple, but it creates a moment of agreement, a reminder that you are not walking this journey alone. There are countless others who have experienced similar awakenings, similar betrayals, and similar moments where truth finally surfaced after a long season of silence. And that is something important to remember: awareness often creates community. When people begin sharing their experiences, they realize that their stories are not isolated events. They are part of a larger pattern of growth, awakening, and transformation. So if this message spoke to something in your life, allow your voice to become part of that community. Your comment might be the exact encouragement someone else needs while they are standing in their own moment of confusion or discovery. And if messages like this help you recognize patterns, strengthen your discernment, and stay connected to truth, consider staying connected here as well. Quiet reminders of wisdom have a way of appearing exactly when they are needed most. Sometimes the next message you hear is the one that helps you understand something you were struggling to see clearly before. But before this moment closes, remember one final truth. The story unfolding in your life did not end with betrayal. It did not end with deception. And it certainly did not end with the attempts others made to control how your journey would unfold. Those were only chapters along the way. The real story, the one that has been quietly forming beneath the surface, is about awakening, protection, and restoration. The truth you discovered was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to prepare you. And as the path ahead continues opening, something greater than what you left behind is already beginning to take shape.